Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go after the lefts, we go after the rights, we go after the middle and independents, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun. All right, guys. Today is date, June 21st, 2023, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm host the most Will be here on How the Frack We Got Here. Only How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before I do get started, guys, let you know that we are a news program. We do try to show the best sources of news, the most reputable places, and at the same time do try to give you logical perspective. We do try to watch our language on here, but let's be honest, words do fly. At the same time, maybe things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, how do we usually do this? Like I said, we're coming off Juneteenth. That's one thing. But I did not have this on my bingo card of 2023 when it comes to Trump, because I thought for a second he was going to try to push this into 2024.
The federal criminal trial of former President Trump over his handling of classified documents has tonight been set for August 14th. Judge Aileen Cannon scheduling 2 weeks for the case. And now the Republican presidential frontrunner previewing his defense on Fox News.
I have every right to have those boxes. This is purely a Presidential Records Act. This is not a criminal thing.
Mr. Trump was pressed. Since he had already given some classified documents back to the National Archives, why not hand over the rest when he was subpoenaed?
I want to go through the boxes and get all my personal things out. And I was very busy, as you've sort of seen. These boxes were interspersed with all sorts of things, golf shirts, clothing, pants, shoes. There were many things. I would say much more, not that I know of.
The indictment says the boxes, stacked up in a storage room, bathroom, and ballroom, also contained hundreds of classified national security documents. The Presidential Records Act requires outgoing presidents to separate out personal material before leaving office. Mr. Trump also denying the existence of a military planning document the indictment alleges he was recorded showing to a writer and acknowledging was still classified.
They were copies of articles and magazines. There was no document there.
Legal experts say the trial's start date is likely to be pushed back, which could land it right in the middle of presidential primary season.
And I would be surprised. Don't get me wrong, I'd be surprised if it did. Keep in mind, this is just one of six cases that Trump finds himself in. That this one, being the most detrimental since it involves the Espionage Act, could derail his presidential hopeful dreams of running in 2024. Now, of course, Trump and his legal team will try their hardest to get it pushed back into 2024. So, in the hopes that as long as he's on the presidential trail, that he thinks that the courts will not pursue. He is sadly mistaken because, again, Trump did not have a individual on his legal team, nor anybody that had the Constitution for that matter, there and say, no, Mr. President, because you simply say I need classified does not mean you can take documents with you. At the same time, when the National Archives and Secret Service both request those documents back from you, you cannot refuse them, nor can you hide them, nor can you keep certain ones, nor can you threaten to literally and figuratively say that, hey, if I'm going to court, I'm going to say everything I know. Again, allegedly. The problem is, Trump, is that the walls are finally closing in, and that he doesn't get to hold the ball till 2024 now. Even though Republicans, the GOP, are very, very concerned that if he is around, there are enough crazy people out there to vote for him in an already becoming congested, convoluted, and confusing field of Republican presidential candidates. But again, we will see what this judge decides, considering they are a Trump-appointed judge, which again makes people a little queasy about, will Mr. Failure in Chief finally see his day in court? We shall find out. But again, can't help but just be slightly a little bit warning, concerned. Let's go with concern. Slightly concerned. Moving right along, guys. I never thought I'd see this day happen. UPS trucks. If you guys don't remember, a long time ago, we covered the story about UPS drivers, especially in the summertime, because as we get toward July and the hottest part of the year, and if you're like me in the South right now, it's going to turn to God's hot plate. Again, with UPS drivers, they do ride in vehicles that do not have air conditioning. That literally are told to keep the doors open. They're told to stay hydrated, and yet a number of them suffer from heat strokes, from heart palpitations, cardiovascular issues. The list goes on. That being said, UPS drivers were going to go on strike, and even though they sat there and said the one thing they've been asking for the entire time, we want air-conditioned vehicles. As of right now, there's a tentative deal with the Teamsters to actually ensure that the nearly $340,000 employees, majority of whom are drivers, are finally going to get the things that they asked for years. That alone should tell you everything you want to know. That again, and like I said, I was an Amazon driver. I mean, they had air conditioned trucks. I never understood for the longest time how FedEx and UPS, two of the biggest logistical companies in the world, still had trucks that had no air conditioning. Still, they're larger trucks. Now, granted, there may be some vehicles out there that are a little bit smaller, but their large fleet box trucks do not have air conditioning, do not have heat shields. And yet, drivers are having to try to make it work, but I cannot blame them for wanting to go on strike. And part of that condition was to ensure that, hey, we want air-conditioned trucks. We would love it. And that's the one thing I want to point out. No one will ever say that a FedEx or UPS person isn't doing their job, because sitting in a box truck, which, by the way, all metal, in the sun, which again, if anybody hasn't noticed, if a car is any vehicle that's out in the sun, on the outside where it's hot, it's 3 times hot on the inside of that car. So if you're feeling 80 to 85 degrees outside with the sun blaring down on you, it's at least 120 to 130 cooking inside that car. Imagine having a large metal box with very little circulation. Again, I don't blame the UPS. And this is the reason why I keep saying to you guys why unions work. The absolute reason why unions work. Because now UPS is finally going to turn a corner and start giving these drivers hopefully more pay, hopefully more health benefits. Most importantly, the one thing they've been asking for, which again, management of America, you can learn a thing from too. If you actually give the employee the tools they need to succeed, watch how fast they work for you. That's all I'm saying. It's that effing simple. Also, at the same time, guys, unions work. Don't be afraid to go on strike, because corporations, and I said on my social media post, I will say it again today, and I will keep repeating it because I stand on it. There is no such thing as corporate loyalty. None. Folks, when I tell you these corporations have seen, and a lot of people think the days of working 20, 30, 40 plus years for same company, they're long gone. But companies still have this mindset to where it's like, oh, well, we only want the most dedicated employees. By then, they mean employees that have no work-life balance, constantly working, constantly fulfilling a CEO's pockets, at the same time destroying their bodies in the process. That's their idea of a loyal employee. I am telling you from experience, and I'm telling you again, they have no loyalty to you. And I don't mean to go on this rant, but I point this out very heavily. When companies want to fire you, there is no 2-week notice. However, they encourage you to give a 2-week notice so they can prepare. Corporations can decide whether or not they want to pull a 401k. At the same time, where you want to pull a 401k, you are taxed, you are bound. You have to give all these reasons to get access to money that you put in place because of their standards. At the same time, when you want to raise, or when you want something done, it has to go through a congressional committee. But when the corporation wants it done, it's in stone yesterday. And my personal favorite, concealed fact of the matter is, corporations hate those that work extra jobs, do side jobs, things of that nature, because again, They feel like an employee that does not have the corporation's interest in mind 100% of the time is an untrustworthy employee. At the same time, if you, God forbid, something happened to you where you can no longer fill your job, the job opening will be in the newspaper faster than what happened to you. There is no such thing as corporate loyalty. Take your breaks, take your lunches, take your sick days, take your PTOs, take your vacations. Spend time away from work. Why? Because work will still be there regardless. Work is a machine. Your life and the time that you have is not infinite. Take the time, take the mental breaks. Simply put, don't give loyalty to a corporation that has no loyalty to you. That's my soapbox. But speaking of corporations, especially in the drug field, a group of drug makers in the industry are about to sue to stop Medicare drug price negotiation. Yes, drug maker industry groups sues to stop Medicare drug price negotiations. Why? Because the trio for guys that don't know, this is filed within the U.S. District Court for the West District of Texas. The U.S. District Court for the Western District of Texas, where Pharma, along with the National Infusion Center Association, the Global Colon Cancer Association, argued that a negotiation provision is unconstitutional in several ways. It does not provide checks and balances through public feedback and cuts off administrative and judicial review, which violates the Constitution's separation of power and due process clauses. They also argued that the provision excludes an extreme excise tax aimed at forcing manufacturers to accept the government-mandated price, making an excessive fine prohibited by the Eighth Amendment. Companies such as Merrick, Bristol-Myers Squibb, and the U.S. Chamber of Congress are trying to overturn the controversial provision, which is part of the Inflation Reduction Act. I cannot tell you guys that the simple fact of the matter is drug companies are suing because of what was put in place by the Inflation Reduction Act, which allowed negotiations on drug prices. Who's mad? Who's mad, you ask? The drug companies. Because there goes their billion-dollar profits. Because they don't care about how many need said medication or drug. They care about the shareholders because they care about their bottom lines. They care about their bonuses. This is why I sit there and say it never ceases to amaze me. The same companies that produce insulin for diabetic patients make billions. The same companies that develop medication for heart disease, heartburn, high cholesterol, joint inflammation, sciatica pain management, sickle cell. I can keep going down the list. For every one of those drugs that are supposed to either help cure or manage ailments, the companies that make those medications are making billions. At the same goddamn time, taking government funding for said medication research and testing. See, that's the big thing. See, that's the reason why I say, these drug companies really can't get mad. You are taking federal funding for research testing purposes to produce said medication. Happened with COVID, with the COVID vaccine. Companies took government funding to create this vaccine. And granted, that's the first and only time that, again, the government had to pay back, which a lot of people don't know. A lot of people think, oh, well, the vaccine was free. No, the government had to actually pay those said companies. But how? But they took government funding. Exactly. It's amazing how these corporations turn around and say, oh, we'll gladly take government funding, but at the same time, we still got to pay. We still got to pay to keep lights on. They double dipped. But I don't feel bad for these companies. The reason why is because anybody who's been in the situation, whether you pay for medication, needed medication, especially life-saving medication, a lot of people were put in very, very controversial positions as to trying to figure out, hey, I wonder, can we get this life-saving medication or do we pay rent this month? Do we get this medication or do we eat? Or do we eat for the next 2 weeks? Do we get this medication or do we pay enough to keep the light bill, to keep the utilities on? Imagine, I can't imagine being in that position, because that's a hellified decision to be in, that you have to decide whether or not this medication was really worth anything else. But yet the drug companies are mad because they're now finally going to have competition. Well, it's going to be government mandated prices. Yes, because you guys offer it. And this is why they said the problem with healthcare in the US, it's a for-profit system. It is not a quote unquote, as the people from the Fox News will say, well, you guys want a single payer system like Canada or like Switzerland or like Germany because it works. Well, you pay higher taxes. Yes, but it works. Well, you don't. You still pay higher taxes. It works. The only reason that things go higher is because, again, profits somehow still need to be made. That's the problem with greed and capitalism. That as long as there is a need for higher profits, prices will increase. And it sucks because, again, for those that need life-saving medication, they are put in this corner. That's why I was like, we covered the fact of diabetes, where you had type 2 diabetic patients who had to ration their insulin. A very dangerous thing to do, which every doctor on this side of the grave will sit there and say, no, that's something you should be doing. It's highly dangerous, and that could put you in a very, very dangerous situation or death. But again, those same people are like, well, it's either the insulin or the rent, insulin or the car note, insulin or the groceries in the house, insulin the kids need to be taken care of. The fact that these companies don't see that but see profit is the same reason why I don't feel bad for the fact that now they are going to be they're going to be under government mandated prices, and if it means it hits their wallet, okay. But I guarantee above all else, they'll still turn a profit, just not the high one they were expecting. But again, I digress.
Or prosecutors on tax.
Moving along, guys. Before George Stephanopoulos starts talking, well, I guess the Republicans can say they got one. I mean, let's be honest. Republicans have their white whales, if you will. I know it's kind of weird because the next story about whales, and I'll get to that momentarily. But Republicans always had their white whales, and this one was no different, by the name of Hunter Biden. Because Republicans, including Trump, were all like, well, who's going to investigate Hunter Biden? Investigate his laptop. He's compromised. He's the president's son. So, X, Y, Z. For years, we've heard this. And for years, we said there are bigger fish than Hunter Biden out there that the Republicans need to be concerned about. But alas, on this day, unfortunately, this news popped up.
The fallout from Hunter Biden's plea deal with federal prosecutors on tax violations and a gun charge. The president's son is likely to avoid jail time. Legal experts say that's common in cases like this, but Republicans are blasting the agreement. Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas has the details. Good morning, Pierre.
George, good morning. As we wait to see if a judge will approve this deal, a fierce debate has ignited in this town. Did the president's son get harsher prosecution than the average person would, or is he a child of privilege getting preferential treatment? After 5 years of investigation, the Justice Department now cutting a deal with Hunter Biden, the son of the President of the United States. Biden pleading guilty to 2 misdemeanor counts of tax violations and acknowledging that he illegally possessed a gun while he was addicted to crack cocaine. The deal, if approved by a federal judge, makes clear that previous statements like these were untrue.
I am absolutely certain, 100% certain, that at the end of the investigation, that I will be cleared.
Well, my son's done nothing wrong. I trust him. I have faith in him.
But now Hunter Biden, through his attorneys, is acknowledging that dark place of addiction led to a series of things done wrong. Hunter's attorney releasing a statement. I know Hunter believes it is important to take responsibility for these mistakes he made during a period of turmoil and addiction in his life. He looks forward to continuing his recovery and moving forward. The dark place, according to prosecutors, led Biden not to pay more than $200,000 in taxes over 2 years in 2017 and 2018, and to illegally purchase a gun when he knew he was an addict. Federal law prevents people who use or are addicted to controlled substances from purchasing firearms. He now admits he did not pay $100,000 in taxes for each of 2 years, money he has since paid back. As part of the plea deal, he will likely avoid jail time. Prosecutors expected to instead recommend probation with conditions, likely calling him to remain drug-free for 2 years and banning him from ever owning a gun again. Republicans have long sought to make Hunter Biden's troubles and financial dealings, including those in Ukraine and China, a political millstone for his father. Word of Hunter Biden's deal set off a political firestorm, with Republicans claiming he got preferential treatment.
If you are the president's son, you get a sweetheart deal.
And presidential candidate Ron DeSantis tweeting, if Hunter was not connected to the elite DC class, he would have been put in jail a long time ago. And former President Trump, himself facing a federal trial, accused the Justice Department of whitewashing Biden's troubles and giving him only a traffic ticket. But the Justice Department says this was all done by the book, with Attorney General Merrick Garland keeping in place a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney who had already been investigating Hunter Biden. For his part, the president still standing in support of his son. The Trump-appointed U.S. attorney who oversaw the investigation has sent a letter to Congress saying DOJ gave him free rein to handle the case and make all decisions. But that's unlikely to make a difference to many congressional Republicans.
And unfortunately, he's right. That, like I said, the Republicans have gotten their white whale. It was this whole thing of, we got him. We knew it. But now it's like, he got off so easy. He got a sweetheart of a deal. If it wasn't for the president's son and all that above. So yes, unfortunately, you wonder what the joke that is called Fox News is saying now that they have been, I guess, vindicated, because this is probably, well, let's be honest, from an entertainment network pretending to be news, so the next couple of minutes be really surprising what they come up with.
Today we learned Hunter Biden, well, he got a sweetheart deal from his dad's Department of Justice. Who would have guessed that? Hunter, he'll plead guilty to 2 tax misdemeanors, but he cut a deal on the felony gun charge. And I find that interesting. Hunter's dad, he talks a lot about enforcing gun laws.
And it's time we establish universal background checks that require safe storage for firearms. We also established a zero tolerance policy for rogue gun dealers who willfully violate the law. Now, instead of a slap on the wrist, their license is revoked. You have a lot of gun dealers who are engaged in shady actions. Well, guess what? It used to be they'd get a fine. Now they lose their license to sell.
Shady interactions? Sounds like Hunter Biden. Well, if Joe wants to enforce gun laws and safe gun storage, start with your son. Hunter, he allowed Haley Biden, his sister-in-law, who he was intimate with, to throw one of his handguns into a trash can across the street from a high school. Sounds safe. Hunter, he wasn't charged with the crime. Instead, the Secret Service, they covered it up for him. And according to a DOJ press release, quote, on or about October 12th, 2018, through October 23rd, 2018, Hunter Biden possessed a firearm despite knowing he was an unlawful user of and addicted to a controlled substance. Well, that's a felony. If convicted, that means Hunter should be what's called a prohibited person, prohibited from buying a firearm. But Hunter, he got what's called a pretrial diversion agreement. As Bloomberg Law notes, this could lead to the weapons offense being dropped if he complies with certain conditions for a period of time. Wow. Do you think a 20-year-old kid in Chicago gets a deal like this? Nope. Guess what he gets? He gets a felony. But Hunter, he walks. A former DOJ official told me earlier today, I would never allow a pretrial diversion agreement for a crack user, maybe marijuana, but not crack or cocaine or heroin. But Hunter, well, he's special. He's a Biden. How can you claim the moral high ground on guns when you have a habitual crack addict buying and possessing a weapon? You can't, Joe. President Joe Biden, he has no moral high ground. He was busy tipping the scales of justice.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I know that's a lot. It's a lot of BS coming in from who was once the White House press secretary for probably the biggest liar ever. Well, top two at least. But it's amazing that Kayleigh McEnany, former White House press secretary, And reason why the genetic blueprint for Fox News is always blonde-headed, blue-eyed white women. Or brown-eyed, I guess. I think she's brown-eyed. Either way, blonde, they always stick with that. That being said, it is amazing that from the Fox News side, they have to correlate it. Well, he's so big on crime. With a kid from Chicago, you notice what they did right there? Notice what they didn't say. They didn't sit there and say, what a black kid from Chicago under the same pretenses got the same deal. No, because that would imply Fox News is racist. Yeah. In the words of Jay-Z, okay. But no, they tried. It's the whole thing of, well, he was soft on crime, but yet his father's Department of Justice. See, that's how Fox News usually does it. And this is the reason why I never call them an actual news station. They're entertainment news. They're an entertainment network. They told themselves a long time ago, when we thought for a second that lawsuit would have put them under. But unfortunately, they settled out of court. There's still one more out there. There's still one more. But that Dominion, and that's the kind of thing that always betwixt my biscuits. I wish that Dominion case went to trial. Could you imagine Fox News, its anchors, its so-called quote-unquote journalists being put on trial for everything they said about this company, and yet Fox News made sure, above all else, to pay them before it went public? I'm just saying it would have been magical. But the fact of the matter is that Fox News is now turning around and there saying, well, if this was a kid from Chicago, just say what you want to say. Well, Biden, it was a black kid from Chicago, he would have had a felony. But there's the hypocritical of Fox News. Because anytime anybody brings up gun laws, there's always that one playbook Fox News anchors go to. What about Chicago? Strictest gun laws in the U.S., and their murder rate is still high. Yet ignoring the fact that, most guns that usually pop up in Chicago are actually pipelined from guns with lesser restrictions. Guns just don't magically appear in Chicago like it's mushrooms. No, they get funneled there from states with Republican-controlled areas where gun laws are less restrictive. But that's the duality of Fox News. They have to make it seem like we was right all along. You should have listened to us, but now we're still mad because Biden is still going to get off. Not forgetting the fact that they kind of forgot when Trump was under fire during his presidency. What they say? Oh, this is a witch hunt. This is not that. They just didn't like the fact that he won the election. Fox News is nothing more than state news propaganda, and I have no problem consistently showing it because they're not a real news station. They are just there to promote catheters and gold coins to keep the elderly watching, even though their voter base is slowly dying out. But however you look at it, so what? Hunter Biden got caught. He did it. He got caught with guns. Yes, he's a former drug addict. Yes, he got a plea deal. So what? Here's my thing. Unless Hunter Biden either disclosed highly sensitive information, which would put him right back under the Espionage Act, unless he compromised himself to where national security was involved, again, Espionage Act. But if he didn't do all these things and just plead guilty to misdemeanors, why the frack is this news? It's only news because Republicans made it news. That's it. No more, no less. But leave it to Fox News to take a victory lap over something they've been spouting about since Biden was vice president to President Obama. Yay, Fox News. Way to do journalism. You're like 1 for 49. Bravo. Moving right along, guys. I did not think we would cover this story again in 2023. This was not on my bingo card 2023. But apparently, 5 people who paid $250,000 to go into a submersible to see the ruins of the Titanic are lost. I wish I could make this up.
In the foreboding depths of the North Atlantic are working against 5 people who remain lost beneath the sea in a deep diving submersible, and also against their would-be rescuers. What began as a tourist expedition to the wreckage of the Titanic has become its own ill-fated voyage. The cramped vessel not heard from since early into its dive on Sunday. Coast Guard officials say if the sub is still intact, the passengers are likely down to less than 2 days of breathable air. Tonight, an international armada of ships and planes is forming more than 400 miles from St. John's, Newfoundland. But locating the sub is one thing. Attempting an actual rescue in the crushing ocean depths could prove impossible. Tom Costello reports from Boston, where the search is being coordinated.
The search zone is the size of Connecticut in the choppy, cold waters of the North Atlantic. Today, a private company's underwater drone went into the water to help search for the missing sub, roughly the size of a minivan. On board, Hamish Harding, a billionaire who has pursued extreme adventures worldwide. British businessman Shahzada Dawood and his son Suleiman. French pilot Paul-Henri Nogelet. And OceanGate founder, CEO Stockton Rush, who talked about the risk during a recent podcast.
So what I worry about most are things that will stop me from being able to get to the surface. Overhangs, fish nets, entanglement hazards.
The Titanic wreckage sits at the bottom of the ocean, nearly 13,000 feet deep, where the pressure is roughly 400 times what it is at sea level. No diver could withstand it. Even a Los Angeles-class Navy sub has a maximum depth of 2,000 to 3,000 feet. Tim Taylor has led dozens of submissions looking for World War II wrecks.
Rockets explode. Submersibles implode. They crush down on themselves like a toothpaste tube.
But with time ticking away, U.S. and Canadian Coast Guard ships and planes are coordinating a massive grid search, looking for any sign that the sub has come to the surface. So far, nothing. If the sub is intact underwater, it may have only a day and a half worth of air left.
This is a very complex search, and the unified team is working around the clock to bring all available assets and expertise to bear as quickly as possible.
The sub, called Titan, has never been certified. Among the safety concerns, the hatch can only be unbolted and opened from the outside, not the inside. And it runs using a video game controller. The Navy is now rushing salvage equipment to the site in case the sub needs to be lifted out of the ocean. If your submersibles can find this sub, is there any way to retrieve it and save the people on board?
We have a group of our nation's best experts in the Unified Command. And if we get to that point, those experts will be looking at what the next course of action is.
But time is of the essence. Terry Virts is a former astronaut and close friend of Hamish Harding, who heard from him just before the dive.
The text I got was, "Hey, we're headed down to Titanic today!" Exclamation point.
The hope, all five are still alive.
I would assume they're stuck on the bottom in the mud or somehow entangled in Titanic. It's a search and rescue mission. So first of all, they have to find them.
Tom, what more can you tell us about this salvage equipment the Navy is rushing to Newfoundland, Canada?
Yeah, the Navy, the Air Force tells us that C-17s are right now flying that salvage equipment from Buffalo to Newfoundland. But then they've got to load it onto a ship or ships, and the travel time out to the search zone could take days, and the clock is ticking. They may not have much more time in there.
What do people need most right now? Did the state and or law?
Well, that happened. That actually got a lot faster than I thought it would. Sorry about that, guys. So, yeah, that wasn't on my bingo card. It wasn't. For the simple fact of the matter, guys, you're looking at 5 individuals, again, which went on this thing called a Titan, which was a submersible, which was not yet certified. Here's my thing. Now, we do hope. Don't let me point this out. We do hope that those people do make it. Although it doesn't look very, most rescue operations just turn into a recovery mission at some point. But I'm on the other side. You're going to stand and tell me that you paid $250,000 to go into a submersible to view the wreckage of the Titanic at a level that most humans and aquatic equipment can't survive in. See, for a lot of us, and I say us Black people, we tend to listen to, as I like to call, the sixth sense. For example, I love the water. I love to swim. Do I love going to swimming under do I love to go 9,000 leagues under the sea? No, because I like to think there's a little bit of a barrier between me, the water, and the rest of the ocean. We all have one big ass understanding. I don't go diving down there. Whatever's down there does not come up to meet me. We are cool. And I never understood the Titanic. I never understood the fascination behind the largest ship ever created, only that, it hit an iceberg, sunk to its depths. Many lives were lost. A movie made $1 billion. A movie made more than $1 billion off of it. And yet you have individuals who are going into these submarine-like vehicles, which haven't been certified. The only way you can get let out is from the outside. And apparently you have a controller from Wish controlling this aquatic vehicle. I don't understand it. I mean, I can sit there and say white people, but let's be honest, it does have a certain Caucasian ring to it. But again, we are here at how the Frack got here. We are hoping that everybody's alive and makes it back home safely. But at the same time, the company that runs this aquatic vehicle and its CEO will definitely have a lot to answer for. But again, I can find a better way to spend $250,000. That's just me. Moving right along, guys. Guaranteed income programs. We talked about this because former presidential candidate Andrew Yang, who may be again running this year, he hasn't announced it yet or not. He was actually the one that he didn't actually call that guaranteed income plans. It was like freedom dividends or something like that. Anyway, they're starting to expand around the country, and I can't help but say I called it. Yes, some guaranteed income experiments are popping up or expanding around the country, offering no strings attached temporary cash payments to low-income residents. Although some programs limit what recipients can or cannot pay with this assistance, guaranteed income programs select certain groups impacted by income equality, such as the impoverished or formerly incarcerated, and gives them monthly cash payments for a lot amount of time. This allows participants to use money on whatever they need or want, which allows residents to fill in the gaps of what other financial assistance may cover. Again, I have been saying this just because this is what's going to happen. That as technology, and I say this all the time, as technology is taking over places, we're seeing ChatGPT, we're seeing AIs being taken over in certain aspects where a human does. It will get to the point. This is the point I'm trying to make. It will get to the point to where job industries will be impacted by this. And then what? Because that's going to be my question. Because as an IT person, I'm already seeing it. As an IT person, I am seeing jobs disappear, and I am seeing more and more specialization happen. And people either have to leave the profession or change their skill set, or simply put, try to hang in the position as long as they can. Why? Because of automation. But other jobs can also act the same way. So what happens when there are less jobs, but the bills don't stop? Guaranteed universal income is the solution. And people sit there and say, mostly Republicans, well, if you give people money, they'll be less incentivized to work. Which out of all these guaranteed income payment plans they've done, says otherwise. Because here's the beautiful thing that rich ass GOP members, and some moderate Democrats don't want to admit. When money is the last thing on your mind, you're not lazy. When your financial problems are taken care of, you're not lazy. If anything, you're driven, you're ambitious, you're energized. Because you'll be hard pressed. Here's my thing. You will be hard pressed to find somebody who, let's just say, won the lottery tomorrow, and in turn sat there and said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to do anything for the rest of my life. I am set. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is it hard? Is it hard to believe? Even more so. Because if yours truly won the lottery tomorrow, yes, I pay off some bills. Yes, me and my fiance would definitely put some things away from the kids. Yes, I would make sure that some select family members definitely got a leg up in the situation. Yes, I would make sure that I'm building generational wealth. Would that make me lazy? Hell no. If anything, I would be the most laid back person on the planet. But that's what it's designed to do. Government for this actual plan, it's supposed to help fill in the gaps, because every American that isn't making six figures is stressing on how to cover bills. For a lot of Americans, they are 1 or 2 paychecks away from being on the street. And to think that affects people, just for the simple fact of the matter, it's like, how do I keep everything spinning at the same time, not lose my sanity? At the same time, these universal income plans are helping, but it's almost as if, well, if we give people money, we're going to say, wait, we're going to kill what makes America work. America will run regardless, because again, I find it very hard to believe that if you give an individual money to cover the extras that they're short on, that they're going to stop working. It's almost the same. It's literally the same lie they told about WIC and SNAP and food and payment assistance. That, oh, well, it's the reason why Republicans, especially here in the South, have taken SNAP and WIC and said, oh, instead of giving you a card and a monthly stipend to where you can take care of your family, we're going to dictate what you can do with that, because we are so tired of seeing you buy steak and lobster and all this with food stamps while we're struggling. See, that's the beauty part about the GOP sometimes, that they can make those of the same caliber believe that a lower class is getting over on them when it's really the GOP themselves. See, that's the reason why they'll also sit there and say, like, this universal income, well, I don't believe in giving free money. Really? Tell that to the same people that bankrolled your campaigns first. But again, I digress. But I'm not surprised about this, that the universal income payments, universal income programs are expanding, because you cannot deny the data. It freaking works. But speaking of things that need work, especially in the state of Florida, the current champion of the Hold My Beer contest, I never thought, again, I would have this on my bingo card of 2023. Now, of course, we did talk about Ron DeSantis signing the Don't Say Gay bill, which included not talking about sexual orientation and things of that nature. Now in kindergarten, and now from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade, even though he's trying to go into college with it as well, but good luck with that. They also decided to go after books that promote certain things that they believe is indoctrination. In this case, about a book about two male penguins. This actual book right here, in Tango Makes Three, is about two male penguins that decided that they want to start a family. This is a children's book, ladies and gentlemen, and that a school district outside of Orlando has restricted it, saying that it has tones that are not set for children. I wish I could make this up. This book right here is saying that in Tango Makes Three, as they're saying from the state, would suggest a indoctrination that a family can be started outside of a heterosexual couple. Yes, that is the BS that they try to spin. And this is the thing that bothers me, because leave it to GOP to talk about indoctrination and talk about the LGBTQ plus community, saying that they're on a mission, that they're just out there to put it in front of us, that it's not about, it's not about persecution, things of that nature. There's a pure, it should be the other way around. That, again, I've got nothing against the LGBTQ plus community. I consider myself an ally. I will fight for their rights as much as anybody else, because they deserve to have, they actually deserve to have the life they want, to live how they want without judgment or prosecution. As long as they are not harming anyone or children, then they should be allowed to live the life they choose as much as anybody else does. But it is amazing to me that all of this, because whenever you hear the GOP talk about it, well, the LGBTQ plus, they groom individuals. No, that would be GOP. Don't believe me? Go to any church and state or any place that has Hooters or Twin Peaks. I see grooming there. I don't see grooming in drag queen story time, where people who dress in drag actually want to read to your kids, because reading to your kids actually helps them develop. Who knew? At the same time, books, not just LGBTQ plus, but people of color books are also banned. Why? Because some white people feel offended, which is amazing to me. How do you feel offended about a book about two male penguins that simply want to start a family? It is a children's book, simple and plain. There is no indoctrination behind it. It is actually teaching acceptance, which is honestly what needs to be taught a lot more these days. Acceptance and non-judgment. That's what needs to happen. Because it's amazing to me how anytime they want to talk about, oh, well, I will drink Bud Light because of drag queen, because they endorse drag queens. Okay. Will you still keep drinking Jack Daniels, even though Jack Daniels stole the recipe from Uncle Nearest? Wouldn't that make you slightly racist? Again, it is amazing to me the ignorance of things that people want to promote when we should be promoting cultural sensitivity. And who else to learn it better than kids? That also being said, guys, we're going to move on to the next story because the American dream is getting a little bit harder to come by. Why do you ask? Because a new thing is happening, and I am slightly concerned. And after this video, you will be too.
Single mom Robin Ashford had planned to buy a home near Columbia, South Carolina last year, but mortgage rates suddenly shot sharply.
I found out that I wasn't going to have as much buying power as I would have about 2 or 3 years ago. And my monthly mortgage payments were too much that I could handle.
So instead, Ashford turned to this brand new community built specifically for renters.
I don't have to worry about taxes on the home. I don't have to worry about if something breaks. It's the landlord's responsibility.
They have large open floor plans.
And an increasing share of the landlords are now big builders, like Bruce McNeelage's Nashville-based Kinlock Partners, as more Americans decide to rent not only by necessity, but by choice.
We've had a societal shift to people wanting to rent because they want a maintenance-free lifestyle, or they want the ability to move to a city and just give the keys back to the landlord at the end of the lease.
Builders put up 68,000 new single-family rental homes last year, a 31% increase over the year before, according to John Burns' research.
I think it's at the early stages of being a very, very big business, just like the apartment market is.
Burns counted 708 build-to-rent communities coming soon across the U.S., entire communities of single-family homes built not for sale, but specifically for rent.
The people that want a home but have now been priced out due to rising prices and then rising mortgage rates are saying, well, I want a home, I'm going to rent for a while. So it's created more demand for the rental homes.
And renters are demanding more of the builders, amenities like pools, fitness centers, dog parks, of course, on-site maintenance, and as in this community, bigger backyards. But all that comes at a price. The average rent here is about $2,200 a month, and single-family rents across the nation are rising.
That's something that I do need to think about because trying to save for a home while paying high rent, it's hard.
For now, she's enjoying the new home, even if it's not her new home. For NBC News,
Yep, the American dream, ladies and gentlemen, a little hard to get. It is amazing to me that, for the simple fact of the matter, that's not more alarming. That even here in Tennessee, where I live, that you have leasing companies who are outbidding homeowners to buy these homes that have backyards with plenty of land, mow them down, and build up zero-lot homes and charge that type of rent. And it is amazing how some people think that, oh, well, it's just easier to rent. No, it's the only option. Outside of apartments, it is the only option. Forget banks right now. Even with inflation where it is, banks right now are being shaky about giving out mortgages. They're being shaky about lending. They're being shaky about what money they go to because they're not sure if it's going to be bad bets. And again, when you have as people who want to own homes, myself included, I cannot tell you that, yes, am I thankful that, for my family, we were able to get a home that's a little bit bigger than an apartment? Absolutely. No, I again, no issue with that. But yes, not being a homeowner, that thing bothers me. Paying rent rent is $2,000. Rent is $2,000, $3,000, you accept it. But at the same time, it bothers you because that money that you're paying on a rent, that money you're paying monthly, goes nowhere. It doesn't show up. It doesn't add interest. It doesn't do anything. Because at this point, renting a home is just like renting an apartment. You just have more bills. So it's always bothered me, even though I didn't, long story short, didn't want to rent, wanted to go into the home ownership, wanted to find a home for us and go from there. But alas, circumstances change. Do what you got to do. But the fact of the matter is, we are running into a situation in America where renting is becoming more of an option than buying. And I've already sat there and said this a long time ago, that the way banks and the way these leasing companies are working out, there's a plan in place, and the plan for them is working. Because I've said it best: what's more profitable, renters or mortgage owners? Mortgage owners do pay, yes, 10, 20, 30 years, maybe. But that means that at the end of it all, there's a clock. That clock will run out. The payments will stop coming. Eventually, those mortgages will become actual homeowners. Cool. Renters do not. Renters are like a broken faucet in your house. As long as the water keeps running, the bill will always be high. And renters are a dime a dozen. Because not a lot of people like apartments. As much people do think apartments, that's just a matter of circumstance. But if you're renting, whether it's an apartment or a home or a condo or a townhouse, you will eventually pay until the end of your lease. And then the messed up part about it is, if you haven't saved up enough to where these home loans or these companies that do home loans, we've been looking your direction, what's your other option? To sign another lease, to pay an exorbitant amount of money that doesn't go anywhere except a landlord's or company's pocket. Companies have figured that out. And that alone should tell you something. Because if these banks keep getting bailed out, but they don't bail out the American people, that tells you something's wrong. And like I said, and I have to give it to George Carlin, I really do. The American dream is that, a dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it. And he's starting to, it's every year as I see the housing market change, I can't help but feel he's being vindicated beyond his grave. But again, moving right along, guys, I want to cover this because you know what amazes me about those in religion? You think those religions will be accepting? Those in religion would be like, we accept all, we don't judge anybody. Yet at a Dodgers game, when they wanted to honor an LGBTQ person, the true Catholics showed up.
Dodger Stadium in their 10th annual Pride Night. The group Catholics for Catholics organized the protest after the Dodgers honored a drag activist group known as the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Now, the Sisters are a group of self-described queer and trans nun who critics argue make a mockery of Catholicism. And joining us now from Dodger Stadium is NBC's Nyla Charles. Nyla, what's going on where you're at right now?
Well, right now, the Dodgers in just a couple of hours are getting ready for their 10th annual Pride Night, Gotti. But unlike any other year, there's protesters, religious protesters outside of the stadium here getting ready to protest the Dodgers honoring a drag group that dresses as nuns that you mentioned, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Now, I spoke to some of the protesters here, Gotti, and asked them, hey, why are you protesting this year as opposed to the others? And they say, although they don't necessarily agree with Pride, for them, the last straw was when this group, they say, was awarded with the Community Service Award because they say they mock Catholicism. This is what one of the protesters told me.
We did protest, but we never had a large protest. I think what went over the top is when they were giving an award to a group that is so anti-Catholic. This has made me not want to go to Dodger Stadium because I put my faith ahead of my baseball.
The protest is being headed by a national Catholic organization, Gotti, and that group is out of Texas. So what we're expecting when talking to the protesters is that they say people are going to be coming from out of state. They say they expected thousands of people, but thus far, we've just seen a couple dozen. However, police here are ready. There's definitely increased police presence in the stadium and outside because they say they're going to be paying special attention to the moment when the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence get that award, just in case something happens. Gotti?
And can you recap some of the controversy over the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence? I know a lot of people were offended over this video showing what looked like pole dancing on someone dressed as Jesus on the cross. Where do things stand right now?
Right. So the protesters say the major thing here they're offended by is that flip-flop. So initially, the Dodgers decided they were going to give this drag group the Community Service Award because they say that they help the community, Gotti, by giving back to the queer community. However, once they got the pushback from religious groups across the country that expressed their discontent, even being fueled by Senator Marco Rubio, who sent a letter to the MLB commissioners saying that this was not acceptable at all, the MLB took a step back. Dodgers said, okay, well, we're going to disinvite the group. So they did that, hoping to quell the concerns of everyone. But instead, a couple days later, the main sponsor for the event, the Pride group, dropped out. And more Pride groups decided that they were going to boycott. So Dodgers then reversed course and re-invited the sisters here for their award ceremony. And that, Gotti, when speaking to people, is an insult, because the protesters say they look at it as, hey, you sided with us, and then once the going got tough, you were gone. Gotti?
Yeah, it's almost as if the Bud Light thing happened, where Bud Light decided to honor a trans social influencer, and then a bunch of white people kind of got mad, and Kid Rock decided that he wanted to show true American patriotism by shooting a can of Bud Light, and those people who had Bud Light decided to crush the cans that they've already purchased, or decided to go to a Walmart and show their true patriotism by destroying Bud Light, or even going to a local gas station and buying Keystone Light. So I guess they rather drink piss water than actual Bud. Yeah, something like that. It is amazing to me, ladies and gentlemen, that Catholics are saying, well, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, well, they don't show Catholicism. What are you, the Catholic police? Is the Pope himself showing up and saying, I don't think that's right? I don't see him doing that. But it amazes me so that, again, when things are different from what people know, that they have a tendency of, how can I put this ever so nicely? They have a tendency of being a dick. So what, the Dodgers want to honor a LGBTQ plus group. So what, they want to honor them. That's their right to do so. Well, I put my faith before baseball. Really? Was your faith in baseball when Pete Rose got caught? Was your faith in baseball there when Sammy Sosa and Mark McGuire got caught using PEDs? When A-Rod admitted using PEDs? Was the sanctity of the game, was that messing with your moral high ground? It wasn't. Along with many other stories. Darryl Strawberry, a man who literally, baseball legend, yes, but did enough coke and hookers to make Ric Flair proud. Again, I don't see a whole bunch of Catholics clutching their pearls. Selective outrage is exactly what it is. You don't like the fact that this group was being honored after they were uninvited, then turned around and got re-invited, and now you're mad about it. Tough shit. Really and truly. Because why should we feel bad for you? Why? Because this group out there decided they're going to get honored. I can't knock them for that. In the same sense that you can't knock them. And if you don't like it, here's a beautiful idea. Don't go to the game. Just don't go. Simple and plain. But you can complain. Yes. You can protest. Sure. But sitting there going after the Dodgers because they made a decision you don't like almost sounds hypocritical against the same people that said their rights are being trampled upon. Kind of funny. But our last story, guys, before we get to our feel-good segment, is a story that we did cover a little bit later, 2 years ago, where a woman, imagine again, and this was during the rise of no-knock warrants, where in the same year as Breonna Taylor, same wake of Breonna Taylor, that a woman in Chicago was simply dressing down for the night, and after a no-knock warrant was busted in, she was harassed, naked for 16 seconds before somebody tried to put a cover on her. At the same time, kept saying the person you're looking for is not here. For all those that need a reminder,
when 13 Chicago police officers raided Ann Jeanette Young's home in February 2019, she was restrained while getting ready for bed and was forced to stand handcuffed and naked as officers searched her residence. It turned out to be the wrong home. Today, Celia Meza, the city's corporation counsel, on why the city is agreeing to a $2.9 million settlement.
She was left in a complete state of undress for 16 seconds after the officers entered, and that it took a full 10 minutes until she was allowed to get fully dressed.
Meza suggests if the case went to trial, a jury might award Young up to $16 million for each second she was completely undressed.
We all saw the way in which she was treated.
At one point, the city requested sanctions against Young for sharing the video of the raid. But then the city backed off, saying they only wanted to sanction Young's attorney. The Finance Committee unanimously agreed to the settlement after some debate.
I believe that we owed her more for the horrible way in which she was treated that day.
Mayor Lightfoot has personally apologized to Anjanette Young.
I think it's a good thing that this matter is resolved. Obviously, assuming.
So let me stop it right there, because that was, again, if you haven't noticed, Lori Lightfoot is no longer the mayor of Chicago. So, of course, that was just a little bit last year. Keep in mind, there still was an investigation going on that a Chicago police sergeant was fired for his role. The police board voted 5-3 on Thursday that Sergeant Alex Walensky, who was actually the white guy that was right next to her in the raid, was cited for multiple rules violations and failure of leadership for the raid. And to think, that was back in 2021. 2 years later, that same sergeant is now fired. One would ask, why did it take so long? I mean, yes, she should have got more. I will always sit there and say it wholeheartedly. She should have got way more, because again, they messed up. This is the reason why there's a danger behind no-knock warrants. When you have that type of power where you can just burst into somebody's door, guns at the ready, and then you're naked and you don't know what's going on, you're discombobulated, you're tired, and you have guns and people yelling at you and shoving in your face. At the same time, you're just like saying, whoever you're looking for is not here. She should have got more. And technically, I kind of wish she did go to trial. But at the same time, it took 2 years of legislation and paperwork for only one police officer to be fired. To me, that's not justice. To me, it's just like whoever signed off on the warrant, it should be more than just one person, what I'm saying. Whoever signed off on the warrant, who enforced it, and those that went along with it, all should be reprimanded. All should be. Because that's the dangers of no-knock warrants, that it's literally a lawless attempt to enter a home at the ready, guns locked and loaded, and that could have went so many ways wrong. So no, that's not justice to me. In the same sense where some people believe that Juneteenth, again, also happy Juneteenth, this past Monday, where a lot of people think that, well, we shouldn't be dancing and celebrating. Then what should we do? What should we be doing? Should we be marching? Should we be unifying? Because again, I'm not saying that part, not to get on a tangent about Juneteenth. I do believe that we should celebrate because it does have historical findings. That also being said, does that mean that we need to call for do we need to make that day of unifying, of educating, of informing others? Should we be doing coalitions, things of that nature? You can do both. It's the reason why cookouts at certain functions work well. Food brings everybody together. Then you can educate. Then you can inform. Then you can organize. Then you can mobilize. That's something that we could be doing every Juneteenth. But there's nothing wrong with celebrating history, because white folks do it every July 4th and every Cinco de Mayo and every St. Patrick's Day, and I can keep going down the list. But yes, go back to that woman in Chicago. More should be done for her. But again, to only see one officer get canned, it just doesn't sit right with my soul. But anyway, we're going to move on to our Feel Good segment, guys. As usual on How the Frack got here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes I use your faith in humanity. But it is Wednesday, hump day. Tomorrow is Friday, it was Thursday, and we will leave you guys out on some good vibrations. And hopefully this father-daughter affirmation thing that they do on their bike rides every day, hopefully will change your mindset, put a smile on your face.
Welcome back. A New York father-daughter duo is taking over social media with their inspiring daily affirmation bike ride videos. Damian Davis has practiced these affirmations with his daughter Jackson for so long that now Jackson is flipping the script.
I love you.
I love you too.
What about, are you going to have a beautiful day today at school?
Are you gonna have a beautiful day at work?
Ooh, yes, I will. Now I will. Listen.
That video now has over 1 million views on TikTok, and Damien and Jackson are here to tell us more about this daily ritual. Damien, Jackson, it's so nice to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
Tell me about how these daily affirmations started.
It started while Jackson was still in the womb. I just figured speak life into her. And when she came to the world, I just continued speaking life into her, but I was doing it on my Instagram, which is not public. So I opened up a TikTok, and here we are today.
Jackson, how do you feel when you have these daily affirmations with Dad?
I feel good with my daddy. He's the best. I love him so much. And when we're on the bike, we say our thing. And I like saying our thing so much. So that made me happy and why he picked me up from school.
What made you want to start saying these affirmations back to Daddy? Because it started with him just saying them to you, right?
Because I love him.
Why were you saying it back to me again?
Because he's my father, I had to say it back to him.
Damien, people all over social media are loving these videos. What was your reaction when you saw how they're being received? And what do you think it is that's resonating so much with people?
I was shocked, first and foremost, because like I said, just opened up TikTok, and one day people started reaching out to me like, you see what's going on? I'm like, what? Then I start seeing how it was just picking up pace. It's love. You know, in this world, you don't see a lot of love. It's more fear, more stuff like that. So when you see love, yes, love wins sometimes.
Jasmine, what's your favorite part about this morning time with your dad?
My favorite part when we get on the bike and when we say outside and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I also like when he messed up. When I say, guess what? He said, I know, we're outside, and I say no. So he don't listen.
He doesn't listen? Yeah, dads can do that. I know, it's tough. Sometimes, yeah.
So yeah, so that's something we picked up is where I asked her, Jackson, guess what? And she just belts out, we outside. You know, and that's her thing. That is her thing. She loves that.
Jackson, what do you do when Daddy doesn't listen?
Well, I don't do anything, but when I at school, I feel better. And then I run to him, and last time I fell down and slipped down on my butt.
Okay, I have a question. Can you guys give us some affirmations for today?
Yeah.
Jackson, you want to start? You want Dad to start?
Daddy start.
Just you waking up and seeing this right now, know that your day is going to be a beautiful day. No matter what life bring you today, just you waking up, being able to stretch, being able to walk, see the people you love, it's going to be a beautiful day. Nothing lasts forever. Remember that.
Jackson, do you have an affirmation for us today?
Yes. Well, my daddy, I know he loves me, but...
What is something that I always say to you on the bike that you want to say to someone?
What?
Everybody loves you.
Everybody loves my daddy and also me. So sometimes he plays with me and sometimes he don't because he be knocked out on the he be knocked out on the couch.
Listen, so just say.
She's ratting you out now,
yes,
Damien.
Say have a beautiful day.
Have a beautiful day.
Make your day count for something.
Make your day count for something.
There you go.
Thank you both. Have a beautiful day. Make your day count for something. I know you will, and you at home as well.
Yes.
Damien, Jackson, thank you both.
Jackson, guess what?
We're still.
I don't care what you say. That's freaking adorable. But again, fathers, even though we just had Father's Day, experiencing my first Father's, first Father. Well, let's just call it first Father's Day. But still, the impact that a father can have on a child, especially with affirmations, you know, instilling that confidence, building them up. That little girl gonna be all right. Freaking adorable little girl. She gonna be cool, especially she gonna be cool, and she's gonna wind up being a very, very impressive adult as she gets older. And again, those are times when I sit there and say, you know what, next generation is gonna be all right. that being said, guys, that's going to be the end of our podcast. Thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. I do want to shout out first and foremost my buddy Big Vaughn. That almost sounds like a retail lot. But anyway, Vaughn at Big VZA Dot on all social media. Definitely check him out on his YouTube channel where he does have beats for sale. He does not ban you. If you do play the music, and if it's music interested in person, hit him up. He's got prices. But definitely check him out, Big VZA Dot on all social media. As for myself, guys, you can find me BlackBox447 on all social media. Mostly, I usually do reviews on everything that I watch, that I read, that I play, gym stuff, because I'm trying to get myself into a decent shape. At the same time, guys, these podcasts that we have here, especially with the link at the bottom, and make that list a little bit bigger for you guys to see. If you copy and paste that link in your browser, it'll take you to my link tree. That's the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts. How the Frack Got Here, Get Bit, and of course, Offense Podcast. Also, all of my podcasts are on audio and streaming. So wherever you do get your podcast, my podcast can be found there as well. So definitely like it, stream it, let people know you love it or don't love it. I still want to know, but definitely check that out as well. As we wrap this up, guys, like I said before, as I've said before this year, and I will continue to say it, we do need to be more about unity. I mean, sharing, promoting people. You know, a person that's got a business, that's trying to do a movement, that's trying to do some product, that's just trying to do something different. We should be promoting it. We should be honoring it. Treat them the same way you treat Beyonce's posts on the social media. You'll share them with no issue. Share your friends with no issue. Congratulate them on the wins. Be with them on the L's. We need to be more about that and actually less of the crabs in the barrel mentality or thinking that someone's just out to fleece us. We need to be better than once we were. We need to be better. We can be better because we know better, you do better. Simple as that. And that also being said, guys, the last thing I'll say about how the Frack Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel, guys. We are simply giving you all the information allow you to make up your own mind, but we do provide a logical perspective that goes along with it. We do better as a society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first black person to the Supreme Court, electing our first black woman, Federal Board of Governors, electing our first black woman as the National Cybersecurity Director, and electing another 4-star military general as a black man. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doing to repeat. That's why we keep asking ourselves, why does everything go up on our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians to still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves and each other. We will all get through this. Peace.